As part of my work with Y'all Vote, I recently sat down with Jane Aman, who is running for House District 37 in Florida. So Oviedo, UCF, Chiliota, and Winter Park, listen up. This is my conversation with Jane.
Super excited just to kind of get a chance to chat with you, especially since I am in your district. I was very excited to see your name pop up. So for those who don't know, what does a Florida state representative do, and how does that role impact sort of the daily lives of folks within the district?
Yeah, so Florida state representatives have one constitutional duty in the Florida Constitution. That is to pass a balanced budget at the end of the year, which is, or the end of by the end of session.
Mhm.
So what that means is that the Florida legislature for the past 2 years actually hasn't done their constitutional duty during regular session. So they've had to call special sessions in order to do that. But in addition to that, they also pass legislation that does impact our daily lives. So if you think about like funding for like our infrastructure, so for roads, that kind of thing, for any kinds of municipal projects that they need. So like if there is a water plant that needs some sort of upgrade or that kind of thing, then they might pass that in as part of the budget allocations. That might be part of that. In Florida, something that's near and dear to my heart is that the legislature has a lot to do with like school curriculum. So they pass a lot of bills that have to do with what you can and cannot read in school, for better or worse. So there's lots of ways in which the legislature is impacting your daily lives. I mean, it regulates things like the speed limits on the road and whether or not, there was recently bills that were passed to say like when it was reckless driving versus and like what the fines for that would be and that kind of thing, criminal justice, any kind. So there is a number of many ways in which the Florida legislature is impacting your lives on the day to day.
Absolutely. I think I people don't realize how local it is, how
Mhm.
important local candidates and government actually is to our daily lives. So super important that we're active here. So Floridians have concerns around healthcare, affordability, and education, obviously. Can you walk us through some specific policies that you're focused on there, that would help this district specifically?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the affordability is like at the top of most people's plates right now. It's just that it's costs too much to live. In Central Florida and in Florida in general, it costs about $1,400 on average for monthly for a one-bedroom apartment, which is really out of reach for most people. I have a friend who is a full-time teacher. He's been in there for over a decade, and he needs to have three roommates in order to survive, because that's just the average teacher pay. So our wages are too low and our costs are too high. And so we need some more elegant solutions to that. What that means is investing in affordable housing and smart upward development that's going to be, like mixed use housing and that kind of thing. That's not necessarily engaging in urban sprawl, but that is creating more housing units that will help bring the cost of housing down. Maybe it also going after our housing insurance crisis that we have going on that drives prices up for renters and for homeowners alike. Those kinds of things are going to help bring our costs down on the day to day, really tackling that affordable housing. We need to expand Medicaid in Florida so more people can be insured for less, and also expanding our community health initiatives and our funding for those initiatives so that more people have access to things like mental health services, and other like basic kind of clinical preventative services as well. And then for schools, I mean, we need to fully fund our public schools, right? That is something that we are really behind on in Florida. I could get into the weeds of talking about how the voucher program has really been devastating for our public schools, but the reality is that our teachers are paid 50th out of 50 in the country, and we have lots of infrastructure problems in our public schools that are just simply a matter of funding. So we need to make sure that we are addressing that, as we're going forward. So those are the things that would be top of mind for me. Mhm.
I love that. Yeah, that's something I was just in a conversation recently with. I grew up in the New Jersey public school system, moved here at age 10, and my parents specifically chose Seminole County and this part of Seminole County for the schooling,
Yeah.
as it was like, top in the area. And so really getting back to some of that focus. And we don't have children, but of course, I want all of the neighborhood children and all my friends' children to have access to great education and um, it's sad that we're
Yeah, I mean,
empty.
we just celebrated a year of marriage.
Mhm.
And my husband and I have these conversations about what do we want for our future family? And like that's a lot of, why am I running? Because I want a Florida that I want to raise kids in, right? Like
Yeah.
they have access to the best schools and the best services too.
Congratulations on a year, by the way. It's all such an exciting time. We just hit 8 years, so we're a little ahead of you.
Yeah,
Um,
congratulations to you too. Yeah, that's
but
great.
it's so interesting when you get into that conversation because I think a lot of people just go like, we'll just go somewhere else, and it's like, but I'm happy here. I want to stay here.
Hmm.
I want to fight here. I want to, industries I've worked in previously. I could have gone to a San Francisco or a New York or didn't want to be in any of those cities. Love those cities. They're fun to travel to, but home is here. And I obviously want to stay here and make it better. So that's a big focus of why I think you see so many of us getting more involved in a lot of the different ways that you can be involved in politics and government across the board. So
Yeah.
now I shared with you too, I'm also a children's cancer research advocate, have been fundraising for children's cancer research. So for now 16 years. So that's very near and dear to my heart. Um, on it, from what you've seen, how are some of the national decisions on healthcare and research funding directly, or sorry, funding affecting families in Central Florida and in our district? There's been a lot of cuts and just budgetary things kind of across the board. So what are we looking at here more on a local level?
Yeah, so the cuts to funding for things like medical research grants and that kind of thing have been kind of devastating across the board. And the obviously the University of Central Florida is a big part of the District 37, and so that's impactful, right? That we're not getting necessarily the money necessary to do the kind of research that and UCF does have a like cancer research branch. I think that it's out in Lake Nona, but regardless, I mean the central operations are in HD 37, and that's important to keep an eye on. And I think that really what happens is that families get left behind when we don't have this kind of national grant money, and the state doesn't really provide they don't make up the gaps, right? In the same way. So there could have been some breakthroughs that are on the edge, of being, and then when that grant money gets pulled, then suddenly we don't get to move forward. And so it's really impactful to see like how that kind of federal money coming down now. Additionally, in Florida, like I cannot stress enough, Florida has not expanded Medicaid, and so there's a lot of families who are left in the lurch. When the ACA subsidies expiring, that's huge in my district in HD 37. There's a lot of people that might have had access to some of these programs previously that they're just cost prohibitive at this point
Mhm.
because insurance is too expensive. The cost of getting into these programs is too expensive. And it just continues like these national conversations around healthcare and that kind of stuff continue to impact us on the local level more and more and more too. In
Yeah.
Florida, we have the highest rate of uninsured folks in the country. So
Yeah, which is really, really scary because
yeah.
cancer does not care.
No,
uh,
cancer doesn't care. Yeah, that's the thing is that like I mean, it's all theoretical to some folks,
mhm.
right? That this,
Yeah.
but it can impact all of you. My
Hmm.
grandfather is like one of the most healthy people that I know, and he was just diagnosed with a very rare form of bone cancer last year. So it's like, he was a healthy, 70 something, and
Hmm.
suddenly, it's just, and for, our kids like that
Yeah.
is even more impactful, right? So
Yeah.
it doesn't skip.
I think that's something I learned in a very short window. That's how I really got activated with them. Is I thought it was a rare thing. I thought it just didn't. Obviously I knew it happened, but I just thought it was rare that it wasn't every 2 minutes, and it is every 2 minutes a child worldwide is being diagnosed. So it like I couldn't live with that. So
Yeah.
helping to fund with the organization that I work with is a funding gap. But we do get a lot of money and funding and programming through the federal government, which is,
Mhm.
is where we're seeing the largest cuts. So, and then oftentimes these families have to go out of state for that care because it isn't here, which you start adding in that financial burden, time out of work, and just a lot of things you don't think about. Um, and it's obviously you never want it to happen to you, but I do think it's something that, by and large, we just need to know, like, cancer does not care who you are, what your age is, what you've experienced. It could happen to anyone. So yeah, as part of like your strategy and what you're thinking, like what are some of the plans or things we could do to keep some of those top researchers, including some of the top pediatric researchers here at UCF and like Nona Namor, some of the other Florida institutions that are probably outside of our district, but certainly we work with.
Yeah, I think that this is definitely something that we can take a look at the state level because there was recently some legislation passed and also some rule changes in higher ed that would have made it so that or that is making it so that they're deprioritizing anybody that requires an H-1B visa to be here. So that kind of that international talent that comes into Florida to do research, and because you think about actually a lot of this stuff is not necessarily people who are already there who are already practicing. Like oftentimes a lot of this research is done by PhD students
Yep.
and people that we want to attract to come here to do this. I mean, when we want all of the best talent in Florida, right? We don't want just people who come here, right, or grow up here, that kind of thing. Of course, we want to make sure that we're supporting Floridians, but in order to have the best results, we need the best researchers from everywhere. And
Mhm.
so, making sure that we are open and attractive for that kind of thing to retain people here and not telling people that if you're not from here, then you need to leave.
Yep.
That is huge, right? Because a lot of our top researchers may need like an H-1B visa or something like that, and we don't want to just close the door and tell them to go. Um,
Absolutely.
so that's something that has been huge in the news recently, and I think as far as keeping top talent here, it also means that like our wages for we think about this in terms of like nursing care and like that kind of stuff. The wages for nurses are really low
Yeah.
in Florida, and in order to keep our top talent, we need to raise the floor
Mhm.
for that too.
Yeah. Teachers, nurses, doctors.
Yeah.
I feel
Mhm.
like my stance is give them whatever they want.
Well,
They,
yeah,
I
I
mean,
mean,
they do so much, and
yeah, I mean,
without them,
especially in
it's
healthcare.
hard
Yeah.
for us. Yeah, it's and with what they've been through since 2020, like I couldn't imagine, you know. So yeah, I think those are areas we should certainly be funding, and it makes us all better. It makes us all safer and healthier, and we learn more from that research.
Mhm.
And such a great call out that a lot of that actually is done sort of at that PhD level when they're in university, and um, you know, it, it kind of goes through. It takes a long time to do research. It's not something that you just get a little petri dish and then overnight you have your results. It's a very, very long time. So that's what they're also seeing with a lot of these funding cuts is that um, research that has been ongoing is stopped or canceled. And so we're losing that valuable that time that we've put into finding answers for kids and everyone facing these
Yeah.
diseases. So yeah, any other topics or any other call outs that you want to touch upon before we kind of wrap, or anything that you're looking at or excited about?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really excited by the energy that is in Florida. I mean, like the folks like yourself who are getting involved and recognizing that like that yes, like you do funding, you do fundraising for cancer research, but it's not divorced from the politics, right?
Yeah.
I like to say that the reality is that all of us want the same things. We want our friends and our family to be happy, healthy. We want them to live in comfort and dignity, and we want them to be safe, right? And the politics can occur in how we get there, right? But we need to agree that those are the things that we want, right? And so the happy and healthy piece of that is so important to integral to our political systems, and it's not divorced from it. And I think that more and more people are really waking up to understanding that like these things are very interconnected. And I will say that one thing that I'm very excited about is that this is the most competitive flip seat in Florida,
Hmm.
and one of the most competitive in the South. It was separated by less than 500 votes in 2024,
Yep.
and so we really think that we're going to get it across the finish line this year.
Yeah. I just got chills when you said that because I looked it up and I was like, only that was that small? Like,
Yes, really
I
small
remember it
margin.
being small, but when I looked back on it, I was like, oh my goodness, like it's doable. It's so
Mhm.
doable. And I think a lot of people write the South off and especially Florida. And there's a lot of passion here, a lot of excitement, and just a lot of motivation to get out there and kind of show the country and the world who we are and that we're here to, do good things. 'Cause that's what
Yeah.
we want for everybody.
Yeah.
So awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today and chatting. And what are finally the like sort of important dates for you? We have some elections coming up, so we want to make sure we get those dates out and any specific call outs there for you.
Sure. Yeah. So the general election is going to be November 3rd. We're already out there. We've been knocking thousands of doors, and we're going to continue to do so through November. I will do a shameless plug. JaneForFlorida.com is where you can find more information about me. You could potentially donate. We know it's going to cost a lot of money to run in this seat, so I would appreciate those resources as well. And so that's where you can kind of get those updates. I'm also at Jane for Florida on pretty much every channel too. So, Instagram, TikTok, that kind of thing too, is where you can find me.
Awesome. So excited to support you, and I'm sure I will see you out and about in the coming months.
Thank you. Appreciate
Thank
your
you.
time.